We are in the Bell South Johnny Unitas Football Museum in the Johnny Unitas wing, and look who happens to be here. It's Johnny Unitas. Good to see you, sir.
Oh, Bob, good to see you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here. A lot of folks are always thrilled to have you here in the area, and certainly the wing behind us here. So many memories, and it all goes back to your first days at the University of Louisville.
Yeah, goes all the way back. There's Otto Knapp and I at the center, and a lot of memories around through here.
I heard through the grapevine that when you first arrived at the University of Louisville, you were all of 150?
About 135, 40 pounds, yeah.
And there was a letter that was sent from your parents. Is that true? Take care of our Johnny? Is that true?
I don't. You'd have to ask Coach Gitcher about that one. He may know more about it.
I don't want to embarrass you.
But when I first walked out on the field, Coach Kemp thought I was a water boy.
You were a small guy. You really were.
Oh, yeah. I was actually refused at Notre Dame because of my size. I was there working out. Bernie Crimmins was the assistant head coach up there at the time, and he said, "I like everything that you do." He said, "But you're so small, you won't last." You know, and he said, "Besides, we may be accused of manslaughter by the time we get you out of here." So when I came down to university and started working down here, the funny thing about that was about 3 years later, Bernie went from Notre Dame to Indiana University as head coach, and came down here and tried to get me to leave university, come up there.
Boy, was he sorry then.
Yeah,
sure.
well.
Yeah, no kidding about that. Yeah. You know, looking at some of this memorabilia, I mean, there's the memories we mentioned. Something that occurs to me, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about it. Back in your years, in the very beginning years and through college and even into pro, the equipment that you wore doesn't seem to have been as protective, obviously, as it is today. I mean, is it just a...
Well, actually, you're right, because everything improves with age normally, you know, because of new conditioning, the way they condition equipment, the way they build it and everything else. Now they have flak jackets for quarterbacks. It's almost like having a bulletproof vest.
Yeah.
And we never possessed those. You had a pair of shoulder pads and maybe rib pads, hip pads and thigh pads, and that was it. And the helmets were, you know, good helmets, but you never had the face mask on them, so you played without that. But everything improves, hopefully.
Well, getting sacked, though, back in those days, that
hasn't improved at all.
No.
That's still the name of the game. Get the quarterback.
But at least now there is some protection. Back then, I got it. You were a sitting target, weren't you?
Yeah, it was a lot different ball game than it is now. It's quarterback's protected a lot more, and you're not really allowed to get a shot at the quarterback. You know, so you can't take so many steps or something. And then the rule changes have helped the game as far as protecting the quarterback. They've widened the game, let the game become more wide open with the passing game. You can't touch outside receivers after 5 yards.
Yeah.
You can't, now they open up pass protection, now you use your hands. So I think it's, to me, I mean, although it's helped probably as far as injuries are concerned, I think it's watered the game down a little bit. Because
for the better or for the
you don't
worse?
well, I think for the worse, because you don't have to have as much ability to play the game. Professionally, I'm talking about now. Because now they just push and shove. Before, you have to maintain control of the guy within your elbows. Otherwise, your arms come out this way, boom, it's 15-yard penalty already. So I don't think you have to have as much ability to play the game that you did one time.
How about the coaches in your life? Anybody that stands out? I mean, obviously they played a big, important part.
Yeah, I've had tremendous coaches. I think from high school, I had a guy by the name of Max Carey, who instilled a lot into me and gave me my head and told me that I was a boss on the field, that you just do what you think is the right thing to do. But I tell you one thing, when I ask you why you did that, you damn sure better have an answer. Well, when I came down here, I had Coach Gitcher, who was just as mean and nasty as this guy was, and Coach Camp, who I thought, to me, knew more football than anybody that I ever visited with, even professionally. I think he could have coached professional football when he was, you know, back in those eras without any problem at all. We ran just about every kind of formation you could think of down here at the University of Louisville. He didn't have much to work with. Probably maybe 28 scholarships at one time, and then I think it dwindled down to maybe 5 when I was getting out of school. Matter of fact, in my junior year, we had a few players. We had a scrimmage one side of the line at a time. That's how many people we had, and that was about it. But he was great. Weeb Eubank was terrific. Weeb, again, he had some idiosyncrasies that were kind of hard to swallow, like he didn't want to throw the ball against the Night Train Lane. I said, I can't let him have an off night. Are you kidding me? He said, well, he's going to intercept. I said, yeah, well, so what? I said, I might get 3 touchdowns. He might get 1. So what? I'll change 3 for 1. And they didn't want to throw against Jack Butler. But we changed his mind, you know, saw what we could do with Raymond Berry and the receivers and how hard we worked at doing what we wanted to do. He came over one time after we played a preseason game against Pittsburgh and lost 21-14, but we couldn't throw the ball behind Jack Butler. He said, you can't get behind him. I said, well, but we can throw in front of him. And he just continued to say no. So we just forgot about it in the fourth quarter and just bang, 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 downfield 2 times, scored 14 points, and he came, oh, he was hot. He came over during the game. Raymond and I are walking off the field. He says, come here, you two. I said, yes, sir. I said, oh, I'm going to hit the fan right now. So he said, I'll never tell you what not to do again.
You bring up your high school coaches
Yeah.
playing an important part.
Yeah.
So many times, students at high school or college go on to have great careers or do well in life, and they owe it in the back of their mind to a teacher or a coach. And many times they don't get a chance to go back and thank them for that. Would you suggest to the school students of today to think about down the road going back and finding the teacher that made a difference in their life?
Oh, most definitely. I think that any time, well, first of all, in order to be a good coach, you have to be a teacher. I don't think you can be coach without being a teacher first, because that's where it's all at. And I think that at any time that if you feel that way and you feel that you should go back, I think you should. There's guys who have had tremendous help to me throughout my lifetime. They weren't necessarily coaches, were maybe business people or something like that. I think it's nice to go back and to remember the guys and say, hey, you were very helpful to me, and I appreciate it.